Hello there, guys. Today I want to demonstrate my Bitnami LAMP stack that I've got installed here. I'm running OpenSuse Leap 42.2, as you can see, and I've got a couple of widgets out here. I've got a Bitnami LAMP stack, LAMP standing for Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and Perl. I've got that installed from the Bitnami website. And I am also running a couple of other applications. Right now I'm interested in PHP development that I want to demo today. I've got a couple of files that I've created for a web application in PHP, and what I want to do is I want to fire up the editor to show you what the files look like, talk about that briefly, and then go ahead and fire up the LAMP stack and render those in the browser using PHP and HTML. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to get into Kate. And so let me open up the menu here, and let me come over to Utilities, and here's Kate. Let me bring Kate up. And if I go ahead and click on File Open, that will take me out to the location where I have those files stored, which in this case is root and opt, lamp stack 56281. I have here, the next place I want to go is Apache 2 and htdocs, so I missed it. Let me go back. htdocs, webtech, and coursework. Let's go to chapter 13 where I have those stored that I want to demo. Completed code exercises, and let me go to exercise number 7. And this is a business travel application. So if I click on HTML, it's going to bring up the HTML file for the web application that I'm using, and then if I click on File and Open and click on the business travel, it's going to bring up the business travel PHP file. I'll talk about that in a moment. And let me do File and open one other file, the third file, called an included travel allowance is .php file, which is a included PHP file that has nothing but functions on it, functions that I'm going to be using, that I've created, that I'm going to be using in these two files. And so let's go to the businesstravel.html file, and you can see here that what this file is designed to do is to provide here a form called businesstravel.php with a method equals post. I have a table that I have developed here, and there are a couple of input types. There's a text field of size 20 called trip date, another one here which is a text type size 20, which is named miles, and then I have a pull down menu that I've created here that has various selections in it. This one's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and hotel, so you can select either one of those. And then I have a submit button here to calculate my reimbursement. So basically it's a means of entering the date of your travel, the number of miles that you traveled, and then whether these particular items are a part of your reimbursable. And if you select those, those will be part of your reimbursable. If you do not select them, they will not. So here we got a business travel PHP file, on the other hand, that processes the data that comes from your HTML file here. And in this particular file, I'm using the include statement here in PHP code block that includes the travel allowance.php file, which is the functions. You must have this include statement here in your PHP code block before you call any functions that use those from this file. Otherwise, PHP will not know what the file is. In other programming languages, such as Python, this include statement here would be the same as using, for instance, import. So if you wanted to use a math function or math methods for a class, then you would use an import math, which is in the library, Python library. Here I'm using the include travel allowances.php file to include any functions that are in that file. So here we have a statement, trip date is equal to the post array of trip date. So I'm getting that input from the HTML file. The miles variable I've initialized to the post array of miles. The breakfast variable is the post array of breakfast, etc. on down through hotel. And then if I go on down, I have a calculation here, an assignment statement for a calculation. Assignment is the car use variable is assigned the miles variable times the get mileage allowance function. Okay, so it calls the get mileage allowance function from this file right here. The travel allowances, the inc travel allowances.php, and so it makes that calculation based on that. And the get mileage allowance .php file or function rather, if you take a look at it here, has no parameters, and so it simply returns a value of 0.35, which is the mileage allowance, 35 cents. So let's go back to the PHP file now. We have a conditional statement. If breakfast variable is equal to yes, the string yes, then the breakfast allowance variable is assigned the get breakfast allowance function. So we're calling that function, so let's go back to the get breakfast allowance. Here it is. Function has no parameters. All it does is return a value of 6. The get lunch allowance returns a value of 850. The get dinner allowance function returns a value of 1750. And the get hotel allowance function returns a value of 110. And so if we go back to this PHP file now, we have a series of chained if statements, if else, and so we're testing for whether breakfast is allowed as an allowance. If it is, then we're getting that value from invoking the function get breakfast allowance. Otherwise, or else, the value of that variable breakfast allowance is 0. We're testing here for lunch. If it's yes, then lunch allowance invokes the function get lunch allowance, which then returns that value and assigns it to lunch allowance. Otherwise, it's 0. We continue that process on down here to the bottom, and then we have a calculation that we make, which is the total variable is assigned the value of car use variable plus the value of breakfast allowance variable plus the value of lunch allowance, etc., on through to hotel, which is the total reimbursable rather for the entire trip. And then we have a series of print statements. We're building a table here in this print statement in HTML, and we're calling a series of variables here using the number format function concatenated in this print statement with 2 decimal place accuracy. And so we're just reporting back here the whether these allowances were actually picked up or not from the input provided by the user, and then we're reflecting or echoing back the total reimbursement here of the total to 2 decimal place accuracy as well using the number format function. Alright, so having seen this, let me go ahead and go out to another screen, and let me go out to my let me actually go to a third window. And now what I need to do is I need to fire up my Apache Web Server so I can render these pages. So let me go ahead and open up another terminal, and I have an alias set up here called LAMP stack. I need to sign in first. The password for root, and then LAMP stack, and that launches the LAMP stack GUI. Let's go to Manage Servers, and you can see that the Apache Web Server is stopped, so I'm going to go ahead and start it. I do not need the MySQL database here in this example, so I'm not going to run it. Let's go ahead and minimize these. Alright, so let me go back out now to my web browser, and I should be able to use the local host domain now. And I also want to use web tech, which is where the folder is located under htdocs so that it renders this page. So I can just simply click on coursework folder and go down to chapter 13 and go up to completed code exercises and exercise number 7. And here's the businesstravel.html file. Let me click on that, and here is the HTML rendered page that you saw in Kate, the code editor. So let me put in today's date, and today's date happens to be November the 25th, 2016. Miles traveled, I'm just going to say 650 miles or 640 miles. I'm going to include breakfast, I'm going to include lunch, but I'm not going to include dinner as a part of the reimbursable for this trip. But I am going to include the hotel. So I'm just going to exclude the hotel here. And then I'm going to calculate my reimbursement. And this is send that input out to the PHP hypertext preprocessor on the server. And what I get back is a nice table that says the car use value is $224. That's 35 cents times the 650 or 640 miles that I put in the original HTML document field that was prompted. I have a breakfast allowance rather of $6, a lunch allowance of $8.50, a dinner allowance of nothing since I said that was not to be included, and then I have a hotel allowance of $110. So for the total reimbursable here for this trip was $348.50. Okay, so this has been a demonstration of the use of the LAMP stack to fire up the Apache Web server to render HTML, and then the use here of Kate, which is a code editor. We're rendering the web application PHP and HTML pages so that you can run the application in the web browser here, which happens to be Chromium, and render those pages as a web application.